so much about bees.
Well, I told you guys when you let me put it here that I was going to try to be an educator with it.
You have done great.
All right, so today is, oh, I've got the camera. I guess it won't matter. It's upside down, but it won't know it. The image is right side up. So today is what, August 13th, and I've got my friends, the New Mormon missionaries, with me. Of course, Debbie with me, and I've got another camera that I'll use to take close-ups rather than moving that camera back and forth. You guys can come on around and take a look as close as you want. Now, this bee right here on the corner, that's a drone. See how much bigger it is? Yeah. It's longer, but its wings are roughly as long as its body. It's got these two big, enormous eyes on the front. That's how you recognize a drone. Now, a queen is going to be similar in length, but her wings are going to be proportionally much shorter, and she doesn't have the prominent eyes like that. Now, this part of the hive is kind of extra space to them. They're not doing a whole lot with it, nor should they be. I'm going to put my gloves on because I'm going to be moving frames. Yeah. They come out here to hang out and cool off when the rest of the hive is warmer than they want it to be. They have to keep, so basically we've got about 5 frames, maybe 6 frames that are brood. Typically this one is mostly honey. Then we've got 5 or 6 here in the middle that are mostly brood, and then the rest of these are mostly honey or they're empty space. And over the brood, they have to maintain the temperature at about 95 degrees, which means that when it's hotter than that, they're bringing in water from wherever they find it and using water and their wings to create evaporation to lower the temperature. This is just a divider board because you don't want, oh, I should get the smoker going. I'll start to move frames without a little bit of smoke so you get agitated at me. Yeah. Thought I was going to be able to show you. I thought I had a bee bringing a dead carcass up and out. Oh, okay. Because that's one of the specialized tasks of certain bees. Is an undertaker bee.
Yeah, the undertaker.
They have, apparently when they are really young, the first task that they all typically have is as a nurse bee. And they'll crawl over the brood, they'll feed the brood, and they'll do that for about 2 weeks. And at that point, they can't even really fly. And then at some point, when you've got a new batch of brood hatching out, you'll come up in the evening, and let's move that bucket over here where I can keep the smoker in it. This is a way of kind of concentrating it, letting it spread through the hive a little bit before I start doing serious work. So once they graduate from the nursery bees, then they will come out and take orientation flights and learn how to find their hive, and how to make their way back to the hive. Yeah. Now this little, this is a Swiffer cloth at the bottom, and it captures these little beetles. Okay. We've got quite a few of them there. Yeah. They get their legs stuck in it and they can't get out and they die there. Okay. Otherwise, they can be a pest. And you might occasionally see one scurrying around. If I see one, I try to crush them. Yeah. But this tries to catch them routinely. And unfortunately, it can also occasionally catch a bee, but just a small number of them. That's one thing that when I first started with this, I didn't want to see any bee die. And then I learned that the queen lays on average about 1,500 eggs per day, which means that about 1,500 bees hatch per day, which means that if 1 or 2 bees dies, it's not the end of the world. Now this frame I put in on May 30th. This is frame 11. Now what sticks them together is propolis. You see the kind of sticky stuff on the sides here. The bees get that from trees. It's tree sap that they dry and probably treat with some of their own enzymes.
Yeah.
And they use that as glue inside the hive. And what I gave them here was about 2 inches of what we call a foundation starter strip. And they have started to build out from that and build down from that. And they'll eventually finish up this frame building their own comb as they have time. This part with the wax over it, that is capped honey, which means it's nectar that was stored there and it's been there long enough that it's dried out to a consistency that they think they can store it long term, so they put the cap on it. As long as it's exposed, they will walk over it, they may add more nectar to it, and then fan it to dry it out. Now here, I'm not sure if they are adding to these frames or if they are consuming it, because of the drought we're in, they're going to have a harder time for a while finding resources.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching carefully how much of the honey they're consuming, because if they start to consume it at a high rate, then I'll start feeding them some sugar water, because I want to be sure that they go into the winter with an adequate amount of honey stores. So this is frame 10. And you can see where, I was talking to her about the meltdown. We had a comb that fell over from another frame down here, and you still see some. And here we have more capped honey, and you can see the clear liquid. That's nectar, and it's just not. It's going to be honey, but it's not dry enough yet. See that well enough?
So how do they make the comb so perfect?
Boy, design of God, I guess. There's a hive beetle right in that cell right there. Now those bees, they will corral the hive beetles. If they see them, they're going to keep them pinned in a corner somewhere. I am going to crush that rascal if it comes out. Yeah, go in and get that beetle. Not going to come out now. All right, we'll let him go for now. Now, you can see a difference in the comb size. This down here is so much bigger than this up here. This is designed, if the queen lays eggs down here, it will be for drones. Now, they can use either cell size for storing honey, but if it's used for brood, which this far out in the hive it probably won't be, she would use that to produce drones. And the workers decide how big the cells are.
Okay, very interesting.
All right, so I take videos every few times, and for comparison, I think this one has much less resources on it than it did. So I'm estimating that on this frame, well, on this side about probably 30%, maybe slightly more, is capped honey, and on this side maybe 20% capped honey on frame 10. Those notes are to myself so that I can compare later.
Yep.
All right, so this guy who's just buzzing around right there, that's a drone.
Okay.
They make a
He's way bigger.
much louder sound when they're flying.
Yeah.
If you hear that, don't be panicked, because they cannot sting you at all.
Okay.
They will buzz around you, and they
drones.
sound big and scary, but
Very interesting.
So only the workers sting?
only the workers sting.
Very interesting.
The queen can sting, but usually will only sting to eliminate her opposition.
Very interesting.
when a hive is making new queens, they'll usually make several. And the first one to hatch out gives a little chirp, and the others answer her chirp. And the first one that hatches out uses that reply to go hunt them down and sting them through their cocoon.
Really?
All right, this is frame 9. It's one of those that collapsed. There's a minimal amount of capped honey and some repair to the comb, but not as much as I'd like to see. So they have plenty of room on which to make more comb. I'm looking for that. Do they have room to grow out? But I'm also going to be looking as we get closer to the brood, which we'll find about 7, 6, 5. Want to make sure that the queen is finding enough places to lay eggs. If the workers have stored a lot of nectar, they can take up all the cells, and that will stymie the queen in reproducing the colony. All right, so this one is frame 8, and I think that this is one that I have not removed since the comb collapse. It had collapsed, and we can see this misformed comb down here. I'm going to cut that out. I'm just going to slice it. I'm going to leave you. I don't want to hurt you. Cut that out there. And this little bit of comb I will put in my bucket, and I can use it for scenting other hives to make them more appealing for bee swarms, or I can melt it down and make stuff out of it. Now that is propolis that I was just scraping off there. Propolis is real good for scenting swarm traps, which I'm going to need to. Okay, so this is frame 8. Once collapsed, it's been somewhat repaired. It's got maybe 30% on one side. Covered honey, maybe 15% on the other side, and there's still some damaged comb that I need to scrape away. Now the reason I do that is to keep them from using that as a point of reference and building comb. Oh, sorry guys. Too fast a gesture for them. So if they use that as a point of reference, they can start building comb in other directions that will cross everything up. Are any of them seeming to be after you?
No, I'm
Okay.
Not yet. I'll let you know.
No, it's not the. I'm not too worried about the sting. The sting would be after. What'll typically happen first is now what I'm doing now is I'm going to make sure those bees get out of the crevices between the frames, and that way I can push them tightly together. So if they're after you, they're going to start circling and buzzing kind of close, and if they pop your screen, then you know they're seriously saying, "Hey, get away from here."
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just take a few steps and walk away for a little bit. Okay, this is 7, and in the past, 7 has had brood on it. Now you hear that buzz?
Yeah.
That's because most of the activity is in the area that we're reaching.
Very interesting.
But there's still not, I suspect this one is still not.
It's very loud.
Yeah, it's
This is probably mostly honey. Yeah, it's heavy like honey.
that is a lot. Wow.
So this darker section of comb
Yep.
is darker because it's been used for brood, but right
Okay.
now, that's all nectar.
This side is very dark over here.
Yeah. So this frame is maybe 25% capped honey and a whole lot of uncapped nectar. It's got just a tiny bit of warm comb at the bottom, probably from meltdown of an adjacent frame. There is no longer any brood in sight on frame 7. Sorry about that. Didn't mean. All right. I'll leave you your propolis. All right. Well, I'm wondering. So what I'm seeing is I think the size of the colony is reducing probably because of the drought. So there used to be many more frames of brood than what I'm seeing right now. Which is not unexpected for the time of year. They start during the heat of the summer, they'll reduce the size of the colony, and then they'll have a little bit of a revival going into the fall, and then you want a good population going into the winter. All right, so this is going to be the new frame 6. What used to be frame 6 here, I took to my other colony, and they are using this one for capped honey, maybe a little bit of pollen, and it's only about 15% capped, and it's not fully drawn. They've made good progress on drawing out this frame. This was empty just a few weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah, capped honey, uncapped nectar, and pollen. Now these dark cells, that's the pollen. See what it looks like a powdery stuff inside? They call that bee bread because they'll take the pollen, they'll kind of mash it up in their mouths, add some enzymes from their own digestive system, and then put it in here to ferment, and it becomes a good food for the baby bees.
Thinking we're Houston.
No, just checking. What is this big white thing in my... All right, so next is frame 5.
Why'd you get interested in doing this?
I saw YouTube videos, and it just looked so Where did that one fly? Oh,
right
hello. Hey, can we not get on the belly? Yeah, how about we go back in here? Would that work? Can I suggest that to you? Where'd you go?
Where'd you went?
Okay.
Oh, he's on your shirt right there.
Nice. Where?
Right there.
Hello.
There he goes.
Are we friends, or are you trying to find a vulnerable point? Can we be friends? I really hope we're being friends.
How many times have you been stung?
Only once, on the cutout when I fell from the roof,
Yeah.
and because I put my hand where I shouldn't have.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, frame 5. And even that was through a glove, and so I felt the puncture, but I don't think they got any significant amount of venom in me.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a brood frame. A little bit of honey at the top. I see some. Okay, so.
Oh, is the dark brown the brood?
Well, the brood, if you look down in these cells right down here, you see the little white, they almost look like maggots, except
Oh,
they're
yeah.
curled up.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the larvae. When they get to a certain age, they'll cap them over, and that's what these are. So these are the older larvae, and the little white things inside, they're the younger larvae.
Okay.
Now, I want to carry this frame out here into the sun, because what I'm looking for are eggs. Little bitty white things in the bottom of the cells. But you also, okay. If you look in this region,
Oh yeah, I see that.
little tiny white dots. Yep, so the queen has been on this frame not long ago. See the little white, they really stand out in this light.
Do you paint dot your queens?
With this queen, I bought, and she was marked from the place where I bought the bees.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to jolt you.
Yeah, because I know they usually like paint dot them.
Yeah.
Really easy to
Oh, there
spot.
she is.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, yellow dot on the back.
Nice.
Okay, I'm going to set this frame up to stand. I'm going to try to get some close-up photos with this other camera. The queen.
Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. She's kind of like
What do the other bees do?
buried.
Like,
Well,
when
she
they're around
has attendants. Attendants follow her and are ready to feed her anytime she is hungry.
them? How can you tell those, or is it just too hard?
That well, you'll tell them when she starts to move because they follow.
Yep.
I remember. There she is. Photo. Zoom this out a bit. We'll get the whole frame. Boy, I just hear that hum. Okay, it's on the other side that all of the larvae and the eggs were. All right, Queen, you stay put there. Just going to turn you around a little bit.
Can the queen fly away?
Probably not by this point. When they are young, and particularly virgin queens, they can fly. But once the eggs start to develop, they don't fly nearly so well. Now, I'm going to get this.
Landed on you?
He landed on me.
Oh, it feels weird.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Zoom, focus. Focus, focus. What? There we go.
It's hard to see through this screen.
Yeah, the other one that I had before this one was much harder.
Yeah, no, these ones are really easy. I don't know.
Got this zoomed in so there's some. The eggs were. I don't think this is going to capture very well without the sunlight. Okay.
Would you mind
I
if we
saw
took
what
a
I.
picture?
Huh?
Would you mind if we took a picture with it?
No,
Or if I did?
not at all.
Oh, picture with it.
All my friends now.
If you want one that's really impressively covered with bees, this next frame will be that one.
Okay, well, I'll take a picture of that one.
Just look at the number of bees there and then take a look at the side of this one.
Oh yeah, that's that looks like a picture one.
All right. Now, before I put her in, let's find the queen again. Oh, there she is right there. Well, she has plenty of room to lay, and they've got plenty of space to build comb. So I had thought that I might need to add those frames from that in here, but I'm not going to. And this will probably be the last frame that I pull, because I've seen enough to know that they're still healthy. They still have plenty to eat. Yeah. You can take your pictures with this if you want.
Okay. Let's do it. Sounds good. That one.
There you go, guys. I'll hold this
Sounds good.
and let you guys get on either side and kind of take
Okay.
it selfie style.
Okay, I like it.
Come on in close. They won't hurt you. That'll be nice.
That'll be awesome.
Okay, so all of this capped brood, you can see some nice big uncapped brood in here. Those will be capped very soon. The capped brood hasn't hatched yet, but will soon. So this whole frame, except for this area over here, you know, notice these are drone-sized cells. She's not laying any more drones, so there's no drones in those.
More workers.
Yeah, so she's laying a lot of workers, which is what we want to see right now. All right, so that was 4, and we're not going to go any further because I'm satisfied that all is well with this hive.
And when do you, I guess, what's the purpose? Like just the honey, or
Well,
just for fun?
I know it. Doesn't it give a little bit off your property taxes too?
It can't. That
If you
doesn't
have a
apply
certain
here.
amount? Oh, okay.
So in this location, this location was just a location for my first hive. I wanted to keep bees, and when I started, I thought this might very well be the only hive I would ever care about.
Yeah.
But as it's developed, within my first year, I ended up with a second hive, and then almost a third hive. I've got the box and just waiting for bees. The bees that I took off that roof were going to go into that hive, and within a day, they left to go somewhere else. And now I'm going to try to move these frames about 3 at a time, so that I don't individually separate every frame and with every frame run the risk of crushing bees. And our queen was on this
5,
one.
yeah.
5. So it looks like she may now be, a lot of them have left there. She may be on the other side of 5, or she may have gone down to the floor. All right, now get the smoker. If you ever pick up the smoker, you want to grab it by the bellows. Everything else will be hot. Just want to make them retreat down into the hive. And then push it closed. It's funny that just that motion of pulling on these multiple frames together is harder on my ribs than I anticipated. Okay. Now, all of these are relatively tight. I would like to have it a little tighter, but there's enough accumulated, oh, come on, Scott, the glue, the bee glue, propolis, to keep it from getting any tighter right now. So short of pulling out the frames and scraping the propolis, that's the best I can do. So then we'll take the divider board, and that gives them the feeling that they're in a nice tight hive.
Yeah.
What we want to do is to give them no more space to defend than they have the population to defend. So things like hive beetles, if I had 6 more frames here, and if they had wax on them, the hive beetles could just go nuts, and there's not enough bees to to keep them corralled into a special location.
Yeah.
See, this bee accidentally crushed at some point.
Yeah.
They'll come under the edge, they'll find that bee, they'll fly her down to the bottom, drag her across the floor, and take her out the entrance eventually.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they
They're
are
smart.
remarkably dedicated. Is that there? All right, and we put these wood blocks back to elevate the cardboard above the lid. And I put the cardboard on to keep the sun off of the lid. And then if you would pick up those two bricks, just the top two, just put it kind of on top of that wood piece. All right. And then we're ready. We just carry the same stuff back and go on to the other hive.
I love it.
You ever think you'd be that
Got
close
time.
to that many bees?
I love it. No, I love it. I've never done beekeeping before, but I think it's really awesome.
So this is not the
I like these.
traditional style of hive.
Uh-huh.
These are called, this is called a layens hive.
Okay.